It's time for a cup of tech gumbo. Let's roll.
It's time for a cup of tech gumbo.
That sounds good. I'll have that.
Haggai Davis talks technology news using language even Brian can understand.
You just don't get it.
I don't have your head for science, so I'm not going to be able to help much.
For a full serving, check out Tech
Musk
Gumbo,
is posting
presented
it.
by Cardinal Capital and General Informatics. Saturday and Sunday at 4. We got 30 years worth of files right here. A cup of tech gumbo on Talk 107.3. I'm sorry, wrong password.
Yeah, it's time for a cup of tech gumbo. It's time to welcome in Haggai Davis and Haggai Davis. No, seriously, we've got multiple Haggais in the house this morning. Gentlemen, what's happening?
Looking forward to a cold weekend here, Brian.
It is going to be cold. Also with us this morning, Haggai Davis III. What's going on, man?
In town for the holidays. Glad to be here.
Gotta love it. Yeah, glad to have you here. Glad we can welcome you in with nice crisp weather.
I brought it from New York with me.
So we got a lot of ground to cover during the segment today. Part of me wants to start with FTX because there are more widespread effects of what's going on. It affects more people's wallets, but the Twitter stuff is just so juicy. As of yesterday, now tell me when I've gotten the story wrong. As of yesterday, Elon Musk locked everybody out of the building until Monday. Is that about right?
As best as I understand it, it is literally changing minute to the minute. So by the time that this airs live, it could still be changed.
Yes. What went down?
Who's to say?
Well, the rolling dumpster fire that's heading towards the orphanage at the bottom of the hill, that's what's going down. That's also known as Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
From what we can tell, there was an ultimatum yesterday that anyone who wanted to stick around had to sign up for hardcore Twitter 2.0. Everyone was expected to blow through overtime hours and commit to being a true Twitter warrior. And most people there said, I'm not interested. And
Upwards of 75% of the remaining employees that didn't get fired 2 weeks ago said, I'm not signing that.
And so whenever you're down to less than 15% of what you had 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
it's hard to keep running a company with that few people.
I would imagine so. And like as of last week, this was a story of layoffs, but this has devolved into something much, much more serious as far as the outlet is concerned. So are we looking at a spot right now where it's possible, if not probable, that Twitter won't exist in 6 months?
It's very difficult to say about its existence. I've seen a lot of people speculating about that. What I would say is I would be more comfortable predicting that there will be outages soon. I've seen reports that a number of senior engineers have stepped down and that services are slowing down. They could be breaking soon. As to whether or not it exists at all, who knows? It might die and be reborn in some form, but it's changing.
It could be gone in 6 days as much as 6 months.
Right.
I mean, when you started off with 7,500 employees, when he bought the company 3 weeks ago, and immediately laid off half, and now of the remaining 3,500, 4,000 people, you had less than 3,000 of them want to sign this agreement. The building's locked out. Man, if you're going to go crazy on Twitter, now's the time to do it because nobody's around to moderate it.
Right? I mean, this feels like okay, it feels like where we're at right now, Twitter is setting themselves up for further repercussions by not shutting down voluntarily beforehand.
Yes, I've seen a number of government regulators who looked at this and said the potential for something to happen from a cybersecurity standpoint is actually very high right now.
Right.
The number of foreign actors who are looking at this licking their chops because the potential for something to go terribly wrong. There was a U.S. senator who had his account impersonated, verified impersonated. And so he asked questions of Musk, hey, what are you doing to make sure that my constituents don't see something from a fake account? And Musk just mocked him. And so that's not a great place to be.
And then Senator Markey reminded him that he owns 3 companies that all 3 of them come before his committees.
Oh, wow.
And
That's kind of heavy-handed.
well, and that's kind of was
It's making a quid pro quo very public, isn't it?
just hey, look, you've got a rocket company that comes before, you've got a car company that comes before one of my committees, and and Musk was, he tried to make a joke out of it, but that's tough to make a joke when you've got a sitting U.S. senator, a very influential U.S. senator, not happy with you.
No, I understand that end, and Musk is obviously needs to take this very seriously. But for a senator to come back and kind of, try to threaten to strong arm, that's, I don't know. All parties are acting poorly in that regard. Now, bigger question here, and we'll get back into the meat of it in a second. But bigger question here: is it good for us to have social media kind of like falter and collapse a little bit?
I think what it is the chance for us to step back and reevaluate the role of social media. That we're seeing Facebook shake, we're seeing Instagram shake, we're seeing Twitter shake, and so on Twitter right now, people have said that it feels like the end of high school, whenever everyone's signing the yearbooks and it's closing out, and it's that okay, like maybe we should think about how much time do I spend on Twitter every day? What is the role of Twitter? Maybe not just in my life, but in the role of journalists' lives, and so. Is there a better way to do all of this? We're really getting to consider that question.
You also have sitting members of Congress wanting to call into question TikTok and the safety of that kind of data. And, everybody's chomping to get a hold of Google and all the things that Google's doing. So, yes, social media is absolutely under the microscope right now.
The sad thing is it's going to be under the microscope from the end of keeping the social media outlets accountable and not ourselves remaining accountable. I mean, 1967, Marvin Gaye, heard it through the grapevine. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. And yet here we are today where I saw it on Facebook, so I believe it. Like, we have no personal accountability. What I'm saying is these everything that's happening in tech right now, everything that's happening in social media right now is the elbow to the chin that we all need to wake ourselves up.
And it's happening very fast. That's part of the problem, is that it's happening so fast. It's not just evolving, and we got to this point over a 20-year period.
Mm-hmm.
But in the past 20 days, we've seen seismic shifts, so that your reaction is such a knee-jerk as opposed to a slow evolution to get to a right side.
I think that's a good point, that people need time to develop good habits. They need time to understand what does proper social media hygiene look like.
Right.
And that just takes a long time, because for my generation, we were the first ones to be native to it. And so for your generation to come into it and have to learn, it just takes a while to build that up and to have those good routines. And the fact that it's changing so fast, it's hard to have those good habits and that good understanding of what is a way for me to use social media and still be healthy with it.
Yeah, and it's going to, as it re-evolves, it's going to come back, and hopefully come back in its proper place in life. It is not a necessity; it is a luxury, and it should be used more for being social, as opposed to the way it's used right now, which is, I hate everything about my life. Let me blame it on everybody else by angrily ranting and calling people out for. Anyway, it's where it's at right now is not a healthy place. We got a break. So we're going to take a quick break. Coming back after we check your money now, we'll check traffic as well. We've got Haggai Davis and Haggai Davis III in for a Cup of Tech Gumbo. It continues next on Talk 107.3 FM.
Troy said at this point it looks like Elon Musk is playing chess and the rest of us are playing checkers. I disagree.
Think so.
I think Elon Musk is playing 4D chess, a game that is fictional, and the rest of us are playing real chess. I mean, Elon Musk thinks he's Spock.
Like, how many issues Twitter had internally before Elon Musk took it over, and he's just trying to fix them, and people are bitching about it?
They were a dumpster fire before he took it over.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is throwing fuel into the dumpster. He's not fixing things. He's helping to melt down the container that is the dumpster, and then hoping he can piece things back together, I think. And that's just not a real good way to spend $44 billion.
There was a slow and steady way to do this, which was possibly possible, but this is not the slow and steady way to do it.
I don't think I don't think Musk has taken into account how much the level of public scrutiny he's going to experience because of this. That how that is going to affect things. It's like playing baseball in New York in the 80s, like when 70s and 80s, when everybody was always looking for the next Mickey Mantle. The number of careers that crumbled because they were trying to be the next Mickey Mantle. Where if they would have just played somewhere else without that level of public scrutiny, they would have done just fine and thrived. When you're under the microscope, things change.
That's one of the things we've talked about is that it's very different to be the CEO of a social media company versus of a rocket company.
Yes.
The things that people expect of you, the way in which you're expected to act and communicate are very different.
Absolutely.
And he is not meeting that.
This is the age-old observe when the subject of an experiment knows they're being observed, it changes the nature of the experiment.
Yes.
Building a rocket company, you're using physics and engineering. When you're building a car company, you're using physics and engineering. Building a social media company is all about emotion. And having Asperger's, he's not really good at handling emotions.
He was good on Saturday Night Live, though.
Whenever jokes were written for him.
Yeah, but delivery takes timing, and that takes a feel of what's funny. So, but yeah.
There's not a good exit from this current situation. I don't see how, when you've got the plane and you're headed to the ground at Mach 2 and you're only 100 feet off the ground, it's tough to pull up.
Yeah. It's
And-
even tougher when you hit the gas harder.
Yeah. I mean, he keeps, going harder on the throttle, and he's just not pulling up.
Well timed, Alondra. I heard it. Well timed. Getting into your money now.
Galen's saying that most people, the enemy was within. Purging Twitter may be the best strategy. The problem is, who's he going to bring in to replace those people? I mean, how many people are lining up to go work for Elon Musk in a toxic environment already?
Well, but if you purge the environment, is the toxicity gone? And oh, by the way, this would be an opportunity to open things up to the rest of the world to fill those gaps.
I think that because they were one of the elite tech companies, they had their pick of the litter. There were so many people applying to be a Twitter developer, and that they weren't hurting for talent. And so, especially because Twitter was fully remote, and so you could live in Baton Rouge and work for Twitter.
Right.
And so it wasn't like they were even, localized to Silicon Valley. So if you're going to purge all those people, how many people are lining up next who are of that caliber that you needed? There's a fixed number of people in that pool, and you just really angered a lot of them.
Yeah. It's how many people are actually not just in the pool, but waiting for a good spot in the pool. That's the part that the part I'm not gonna be able to get away from, though, is shut the damn thing down on the front end. You are so oh god, what happened here?
Oh, that may have been me.
Where's my escape button here? Close this side out. Yeah, closing the whole thing.
Yeah, you should.
There we go. .652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Cup of Tech Gumbo rolling right along. Multiple hag guys in the house this morning. Guys, great conversation continuing through the break. If you're not watching on Facebook Live, my apologies. It was just we did not stop. The last thing I want to talk about with Twitter before moving on was something we mentioned briefly on the front end, and that was, and this was the last thing we were saying during the break, the fact that he didn't just shut it down on the front end. The fact that we could still go and tweet right now is beyond baffling to me.
Well, his argument, if you look at his Twitter account, he said that overnight Twitter hit an all-time high in user base and in activity. And so from his perspective, he's saying there are more people tweeting and engaging right now than ever before. you need the advertisers. You still need that money coming in. You still need those impressions. If you stop right now, no money comes in, and it's even harder to restart.
Okay, but he's only looking at the money coming in. When you have the potential liability of money flowing back out again, that's the part that I find dangerous. When there are people that just want to watch the world burn, you don't need to hand out gas cans at the front door for them.
Very much agree.
And when you're running these companies, it's not just payroll. It's also the bandwidth that you've got to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
All that traffic coming in and out of your servers, you're paying for that bandwidth.
Yeah.
So that's expensive stuff. When you're the size of Twitter, when you have as many servers around the world that Twitter has to maintain, that's a very, very high overhead.
Yeah.
And so you've laid off these people, or you've locked out these people who were protecting your servers, who's protecting the switches and firewalls, and you're just saying, hey, anybody want to have fun at our expense, go for it, because nobody's watching the gate?
Well, anybody want to say, anything that's potentially actionable or legally actionable? Like this, the lawsuit into this is baffling to me.
I just don't understand. If you're going to just shut it down, just shut it down. We're going to take a month off, and we'll be back in December. Don't burn the place to the ground publicly.
Yeah. All right. We got to pause on Twitter for a little bit because there's other things going on. FTX has a new CEO. They brought in the guy that tried to manage Enron on the back. They brought in the guy. He's basically the hospice of CEOs, if that's a thing. What's the latest on FTX?
I saw that story wherever the guy who they brought in after Enron collapsed to restructure everything goes into FTX and says, this is worse. That is incredible to me. Enron was the classic American corporate disaster, and he's saying that this is more screwed up in every way possible. That's honestly, it's impressive, and I'm glad that my generation is really putting our best foot forward there, because the former CEO was only 30.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really incredible how fast it collapsed. That a week ago, the guy was worth $20 billion, and he is worth 5% of that today.
Wow.
This CEO was talking about how there's zero security, there's no management of any kind of money or functionality of how to use the money within the company. There is just complete chaos in the books of how they've been running this company. When you see the anger and the frustration in this new CEO's voice, he's kind of going, "Are you kidding me?"
How did anyone trust him with this much money? If you're supposed to grow a company, you're supposed to have some level of business acumen. You're supposed to have an accounting department, just something functional there, and there should be breaks in place which prevent you from growing this large, this fast, and still being this incompetent.
So, the question is going to come up. Are we looking at incompetence? Are we looking at hubris? Or are we looking at intentionally illegal, intentionally criminal?
Well, it's tough to say intentionally criminal, although, as we said on Tech Gumbo numerous times, whenever your company is based in the Bahamas because it's not legally allowed to be based in the U.S., that's not a great foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to go with a bit of ignorance, a lot of hubris. If you listen to what the original founder was saying, he very much had this idyllic, utopian vision for what his company would be, what he was going to do with all his billions of dollars. And so my guess is he was very much in to justify the means and just didn't care about those actual nuances and details of running a multi-billion-dollar business, but turns out they matter.
The fallout for investors is, it's just sorry, but that's it. Nothing we can do here.
Well, that's one of the problems with crypto, is it intentionally designed to be outside of the regulatory space, outside of those financial institutions which we've set up to protect investors in normal spaces, because those people in crypto want that freedom. They want that decentralization. That comes with a cost. This is the cost of being in that space.
And part of that cost was the guy who started FTX he left a back door in the whole thing to siphon away
About $500 million. of-
about
yeah.
$16 billion.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
only 2.
Or maybe $2 billion. It was $2 billion he siphoned off to pay Alameda, the slush fund company that he had to run things through. And
I'm sorry, not him. I was talking about hackers allegedly stole another $477 million.
That's not hackers. That's him.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
it
This
was.
said- all right.
It was thought to be hackers at first. It's now believed to have been not hackers, but something that his company
so good.
built in the back door to move all the money out.
because his girlfriend runs Alameda, the company they're pushing the money out the back door through. And yes, everybody who's out there thinking cryptocurrency is a good thing, this is what you're playing with.
It's just, I made the slot machine reference last week, right?
Yes.
Like cryptocurrency, I look at it like a slot machine. You can hit it big, but you got to strike quick and you got to get out as soon as you sit down.
It's also fascinating. So FTX's main rival was Binance. They were essentially looking to set up a Federal Reserve of their own because they said, we're going to have everyone pull into a single place wherever everyone puts in money. And if you have a failing company, we'll come in and save you.
Yeah.
We invented that already. It's the Federal Reserve. And so it's just fascinating to see them come back to these same ideas.
What else is coming up on the show this week?
We have a great interview with Cody Worsham, the
Awesome.
LSU's chief brand officer, and fantastic interview.
Cody's good. Cody's good. It's folks serving at Tech Gumbo Saturday and Sunday at 4 right here on Talk 107.3 FM and, of course, wherever you get your podcasts on demand. Hi, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Here comes the CBS World News Roundup on Talk 107.3. Oh, man. Yeah. That was awesome. That was fun. We're going to see, and well, I believe we're going to see in the very near future, a retreating back into what was real versus all the other crap that we've.
You're going to see Binance. Binance is in just as much trouble right now.
Oh, I know. It's just not going to be nearly as public.
No, it's not. I mean, they're probably a better run company,
It's hard to be worse.
but fair.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, yeah. So, but when you've got the two main platforms where you're doing your cyber trading, are just there to take your money
Yeah.
and do with which they please, and then all these all the cryptocurrencies are in the tank because everyone's scared to death and they're pulling and running. You've got, I don't know, what was the last count? 10,000 different cryptocurrencies, 5,000 cryptocurrencies that are out there,
Yeah.
and people know about 3 of them, between Bitcoin and Ethereum and
Doge.
Doge.
The meme one.
Yeah, those are the 3 that everyone knows. There's tons and tons more, but most of those have values at 0.0001 of a penny.
Look, I was this close to diving in like multiple times, and every time something came up that cost me my money that I was going to use for that, like dinging up my car and whatnot, those sorts of things, kids' braces, those sorts of things, and every single time I've regretted it until now.
We talked about it. If you would have bought Bitcoin in 2017, if you'd have put $1,000 down in 2017, right now you would have lost $1,000.
Right, but if you bailed a year and a half ago,
No, if you let it run up to 60,000 and
Which is-
sold at 60,000, you've made 5 times
the
the money.
house always wins. So unless you can push back that little stool, get up from the slot machine, and walk away, and nobody ever does. So yeah, let it ride. I need to ask you because I ask him all the time. Have you ever seen Silicon Valley?
I've started the show, but I haven't gotten all the way through it. I've heard that it is very much to like the tech industry what Veep is to politics.
Yes, very, very much so. And I laugh every week because there's 2-3 examples every week that go back to the show. And if you've seen any of the episodes, I want to change the world through whatever.
Yes. No one ever seems to learn anything.
No.
It's-
You're not going to develop utopia through an app.
One of the things, everyone made a big deal about the young woman who put on the black jumpsuit.
Theranos.
Theranos.
Yeah, Hobbs.
And how she ripped off a whole lot of people when people really start diving in as to what this FTX guy did,
Well, that's why he's in Argentina right now.
It's
or somewhere.
Yeah, he was going to Argentina, probably trying to cover his tracks on the way out. But
He's going somewhere without extradition.
yeah, it's this is gonna get nastier than this might be the like what Bernie Madoff times 1,000.
Oh, Bernie Madoff only he didn't affect that many people. I mean, this is a global, and I mean you're going to have a lot of people who are going to hunt him down because they lost so much money.
I think that's the thing, is because there's not a standard judicial system going after him, the extrajudicial system starts to get a little bit more engaged.
Yeah,
It's something will probably wind up happening to this guy, and nobody will know about it.
yeah. Oh, like disappearing into a jungle?
Into a shark cage, yeah, going through a chipper. Who knows? It's. I mean, if I was this guy, I would try and grow a beard, shave my head, paint my face,
You know,
do
Learn a
something.
new language, blend in.